Shavua Tov. So this week in the Elul challenge, I committed to working on my relationship with God, Ben Adam Lamakom, and I think this is a difficult topic to speak about because most people have it's a very personal, private, complicated relationship that they have with God, and I think part of that is because it's not spoken about so much. And you know that the better understanding and the more clarity we have, obviously, is when we speak about something. It's hard to talk about God because none of us really have an understanding of what God is. God is, was, will always be, Ein Milvado. There is nothing else but God. These are concepts that are way above our brain power. And people who believe in God, and I think the people that I'm talking to hopefully share with me belief in God, know that if you start to think about it, it just blows your mind. It's really hard. But we can get to know God even if we can't get to understand God on an intellectual level with our limited intellectual capacity. We can get to know God from within. We can get to know God. We have a sense, we have an innate part of God. The breath of God lies within us. So we connect because we are a part of God. We have a part of God within us. And when we connect with that, when we access that, we've connected to God. And so we know, we sense, we feel God in our lives and in a lot of times in things that happen. And the more that we can work on our relationships with God, the more that we can connect, the more peace of mind we have in life, the better life becomes. The more that we connect and have faith and work on our emunah, the better life is, because it melts away things like anger, pride, envy. When you really have a faith that there's a God who runs the world and who's in charge and who sees to it many things that happen, and that you're in the situation that you're in, you just don't get those negative emotions as much. I mean, the more that you work on it, the better it is for you, because the less you feel those emotions and you feel more connected and more peace, more inner peace. Unfortunately, nowadays, people who talk about God are seen as simpletons, and that's seen as a very negative thing. We think the more enlightened we are, the more complicated we understand and more intricate things are, the higher level. But I've come to learn that simple is not an insult. Tamim tiyah, we're told. And that it's more about being whole and being at peace, because there's a basic concept in your life that runs it, and that's God. And then everything, when you believe in God and you have that fundamental, everything kind of just falls into place, because you don't have as much anger or jealousy. You shouldn't have any of it if you're really connected all the time, but we don't. We're human and we don't have that. But if we work on it, the better our lives will be. Unfortunately, I think today's world, with all the Torah, we have so much Torah learning, like never before, everybody always says, right? But a lot of it is devoid of God. It becomes about the minutia, becomes so based in halacha and practicality. And I'm not saying we don't need that, we need that, but that is there. That is supposed to be a tool to have us do things correctly, to have us get closer to God. And it's unfortunately not doing that when it gets so much about the details that a lot of Torah learning has pushed God out, which is odd. I remember somebody at a simcha, I gave a speech once many years back, and I thank God, and my speech was very God-related, connected, and someone came over to me after my speech and he said, I never heard so much God. I was in yeshiva my whole life, and you mentioned God more in your speech than probably all my years of yeshiva learning. And I was very surprised and I was very disappointed. And I realize that that's an unfortunate truth nowadays, and that the reason I think why we have so much lack of peace of mind and so much difficulties and so much anxiety and negative emotions is because we're not connecting, and that connecting can only make life better for us. So I want to work on that, because I don't think you have to know and understand intellectually God in order to work on getting closer to the source. And so I'm going to try as hard as it is. Day by day, yom yom. Hopefully God will be with us and bless our efforts. And let me know what you think in the comments. See you tomorrow.